Number 10. Ted Bundy. For those who have become familiar with Ted Bundy, you would likely know that he is the perfect stereotypical mainstream serial killer. He was cold, manipulative, charming, and quite intelligent. In all, Bundy managed to take the lives of 30 women across the U.S. while remaining a suspect in many other cases. What is most peculiar about him is that he could be found in a book titled The Stranger Beside Me. It was written by Ann Rule, a co-worker of his at a suicide hotline in Seattle, Washington. In her memoir, she told the story of how a boy at the age of 3 had wandered away from his parents while on vacation at Green Lake in Seattle. Bundy was the first to notice the child drowning. He jumped into the water and likely saved the child's life. Number 9. Rodney Alcala. Serial killers often receive a lot of media coverage once their murders come to light. But a young man by the name of Rodney Alcala earned his beforehand. In September of 1978, during the middle of Alcala's killing spree, he appeared on the hit show The Dating Game and was chosen out of 2 other anonymous bachelors to go out on an all-expensed outing with the other contestant. Fortunately for contestant Cheryl Bradshaw, she refused to go out with him after talking backstage. In one word, she described him as being creepy. Alcala spent the remainder of his free life traveling from New York to California, posing as a Playboy photographer and murdering several more women. He was apprehended roughly 1 year after appearing on The Dating Game and is still currently on death row. Number 8. John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy is best known for killing a minimum of 33 people, most of which he buried within his home. Now, this may likely surprise you, but there was a time when Gacy was regarded as a pillar in his community and was very well liked. In his spare time, this ruthless murderer would attend charity events and children's birthday parties dressed as Pogo the Clown. As a result of his hard work, Gacy was appointed director of Chicago's Polish Constitution Day Parade. It was at this event that he met First Lady Rosalind Carter. There's even a famous photograph of the two posing together. In it, he was wearing a pen with the letter S imprinted upon its surface. This was something given to him by the Secret Service, deeming Gacy not to be a threat. It goes without a doubt that, in this case, they most certainly were mistaken. Number 7. Sean Vincent Gillis and Derrick Todd Lee. People feel jealousy for a number of reasons. In most cases, the cause is somewhat normal, such as another person's financial success or social status. For a man named Sean Vincent Gillis, he was most jealous of another serial killer's body count and media attention, a serial killer by the name of Derrick Todd Lee. It had gotten to the point that Gillis had to speed up his kill rate in order to match that of Lee's. Even more interesting is the fact that Lee was being charged with murders that Gillis committed because of the remarkable similarities found at the crime scene. Lee was dubbed the Baton Rouge serial killer, while Gillis was named the other Baton Rouge serial killer. Well, as it turns out, yes, there is competition in every endeavor, even murder. Number 6. Edmund Kemper and Herbert Mullin. During the early 1970s, the city of Santa Cruz had 2 men on the loose committing heinous crimes. One of them was responsible for abducting, killing, and dismembering the bodies of young female hitchhikers. The other killed at random with whatever weapon he could get his hands on. The men were caught merely months apart, and to the surprise of many, were given adjoining prison cells. As some of you may be aware, California is quite familiar with their share of murders, which include the Zodiac killings. But it goes without saying that these two men made the oddest co-killers, for lack of a better word. The one that enjoyed killing hitchhikers often went by his last name, Kemper. He was a heavy-set male weighing in at 300 pounds, or 135 kilograms, and towered in at nearly 7 feet tall, or 205 centimeters. His partner in crime, Herbert Mullin, was no more than 5'7" or 170 centimeters. Kemper reportedly had an IQ of 140, compared to the often half-conscious and delusional Mullin, who would have been lucky to have made it into the 2nd grade. He used this along with his body mass to his advantage and often performed experiments on Mullin. Need we say any more? Number 5. David Berkowitz. David Berkowitz, better known as the Son of Sam, terrorized New York City during the late 1970s. He was responsible for the murders of 6 individuals and 7 others who were wounded. Berkowitz soon became somewhat of a celebrity. His victims were chosen at random, and he often taunted police with letters and other forms of communication. When the Son of Sam was finally locked up, people began to realize that there was a lot of potential money for whoever best told the story. Family members of the victims most certainly didn't want the killer to profit off of his crimes, so the matter was taken to court. The judge sided with the victims' families and prevented many works from being published. Sometime later, the Supreme Court deemed the law unconstitutional on the grounds that it violated the First Amendment. In the end, many versions of his story have hit the silver screen. Number 4. The Axman. The Axman of New Orleans has been one of the most interesting killers one could read about. There is little to be known about him, and there were little leads for police to follow. He killed 8 people between 1918 and 1919. Because of little actual evidence, he was never caught. What makes the Axeman so interesting is the way he interacted with both law enforcement officials and ordinary townspeople. In his most famous letter, the Axeman said he would go on the hunt the next Tuesday just after midnight, but every home where a jazz band was playing would be spared. That night was noted as the loudest in the town's history. Not one person was murdered. Number 3. The Hillside Stranglers. Los Angeles in the 1970s was yet another place that seemed to be infested with dual serial killers. 2 cousins, both with different last names, Bueno and Bianchi, worked together to kidnap and torture 10 women and young girls in under 6 months. The press suspected a single culprit and mistakenly named him the Hillside Strangler. Often in such cases, the victims are given the proper respect, but the killer is almost always put in the spotlight more than anyone else. In this scenario, a lot of attention was on Catherine Laurie Baker, who was the daughter of Peter Laurie, an actor who played a serial killer in Fritz Lang's 1931 masterpiece, M. One night, the murdering duo approached Baker with every intention of killing her, but at the last minute decided not to because they were huge fans of her father's work. Number 2. Kempers Interview. As you may remember, Edmund Kemper was one sick individual. Former FBI agent and criminal profiling pioneer Robert Ressler interviewed many serial killers in his line of work, but no interview would be as remarkable as this one turned out to be. The two had known each other from time past and felt almost comfortable talking alone in a jail cell. After several hours, Ressler pushed a button given to him to signal a guard that he was done. No one appeared, not even after multiple failed attempts. When Kemper noticed Ressler's nervousness, he said, "I could screw your head off and place it on the table to greet the guard." Despite the gesture, Kemper never tried a thing, and the two remained friends afterwards. Number 1. Richard Ramirez. Many people find a deep fascination with notorious criminals, and in many cases, murderers. Some envy them, and others feel sorry for them, while the majority of society despises them because of their wrongdoings. Meet Richard Ramirez. He randomly victimized 14 people, killing them with a wide variety of weapons. After a drawn-out legal battle, Ramirez was justly sentenced to death. While in jail and waiting to meet his fate, he corresponded with many women, but one in particular stood out. Her name was Doreen Leoy, and she was mesmerized by him. 10 years into Ramirez's incarceration, the couple were allowed to marry. Leoy told her husband that she would commit suicide the day he was executed, but this day never came. They were married for 17 years before she finally divorced him. He would soon die of lymphoma while on death row in June of 2013. Like these top 10 videos? Subscribe by clicking the annotation here and give our video a like. Have an idea for a future top 10? Leave a comment in the section below and we'll do a video about it.